and is doing. There's this dysfunctionality within the presidency is worrisome, because the president superintends the Office of the National Security Advisor, and the Department of State Security should act in an advisory capacity to the president. Before the report was sent to Senate, I would have thought that the report would pass through the president, at least be copied, okay, so that the president will not end up with egg on his face. Because I was embarrassed and in fact scandalized when the nomination of the president of this country was thrown back at him. It's an indictment. We can't run away from that fact. As brilliant as Femi Adesina might be, he just can't absorb the malfeasance, I won't say incompetence, that has been manifesting within the presidency. So it's not a happy day for the president to have his nominee thrown back at him. And for me now, Magu is like a damaged product. I don't see how the president can pull it together and send the nomination back to Senate. Senate too has a public face to protect. If Senate will now bend over backwards to swallow its vomit, as it were, you know, it's dysfunctional, whichever way it goes. So it's a sorry state of affairs. But what I think is even more problematic is the lethargy that seems to surround the presidency. There are at least 4,000 positions, boards, chairmen of boards, members of boards, that the presidency has not fulfilled or filled in the last 1.5 years. It's only in the last 2 weeks that we are hearing of confirmation of career diplomats. I remember the last time I visited Canada, the High Commission was in the hands of an acting High Commissioner, the directors. Ujumadweke, God bless his soul, was the last High Commissioner. And at this present situation, we don't know who is PAM rep in the UN. We don't know who is ambassador in Moscow. You don't know who is High Commissioner to the Court of St. James's. That's the London. We don't know who is ambassador to Addis Ababa or, in fact, Washington. It's only now. So there are so many things that are untoward. But then I'm reminded of the fact that the president ran his administration for 5 months without ministers, whom he called noisemakers. I prefer to work with civil servants. So this is a president that is not in a hurry to do things. I hear he's a procedural man. But for me, there's something more important than procedure. Sometimes what you say is not as important as how you say it. So I think he needs to jig up not just his cabinet, his kitchen cabinet. And you mentioned Mrs. Buhari. Pundits applauded her for having the guts and having the courage to really speak out. Although the president downplayed it in Berlin about different rooms in the presidency. But quite sincerely, the lady deserves a medal. And you know, I believe that the whole nation listened to her, and that should have been a cue for the president to reorder things, because this is an avoidable situation. It's something that the president can do without. So I quarrel with those who have the airs of the president. Those who speak to, I'm not talking of the official ministers. You know, some of us have said on your channel that maybe the cabinet needs to be reconstituted. We made that forecast, in fact, when he took office, that we expect within the next 6 months of his taking office to identify those who are misfits, those whose shoes are too small or too big, as it were, for their feet. That, look, as the government leads and shows us, so the people will behave.
Indeed, Prof, if I may comment here, Mr. Adesina said something about the president and the fight against corruption, staying in the line of that conversation, how he's fighting corruption, and then everybody needs to buy in. But you said something just now about how you lead, so we will follow. If the president is leading in the fight against corruption, or seeming to toe a particular part, it looks as if there's a gap between the president and the citizens, because at the state level, it doesn't look like the state governors have bought into that fight against corruption, even the ministers. So how can this fight against corruption from the person of the president percolate down to the citizens that are expected to buy in, even though those in between haven't yet bought?
That is the issue, really. You know, Femi Adesina responded that the people should buy into that program. But you see, there must be a strategy. One of my friends wrote something within the week that the president is fighting corruption without a strategy. Now, we know conventionally that fish gets rotten from the head. So once you have the leadership right and it's in place, then people will follow. They will toe the line. So quite sincerely, you can see from the last administration, we used to describe Jonathan's administration as a clueless administration because it did not demonstrate sufficient capacity to understand the problematic of Nigeria, nor even think out solutions to such problems. I hate to say that the president is assuming the toga of cluelessness, because the president must demonstrate superior knowledge of the circumstances of Nigeria. On the security issue, no problem at all. The president is a security person. He's the only general who has commanded all the divisions of the Nigerian army. And you know what he did to Metasini. And that's why when General Obasanjo was saying that perhaps the only thing General Buhari knows is how to shoot straight, that economically is an illiterate. Well, most soldiers are illiterate economically, but at least on the security score, you can't fault him, because he seems to have turned the situation around and set Boko Haram on the run. I agree with Femi Adesina that insurgency is not something that you terminate one day. There will still be rumblings from disaffected, disenchanted, and what he said, the bitter end people who will fight with the bitter